In the 25 games that Electronic Arts have released under the Need for Speed banner in the past 3 decades, Need for Speed Rivals is the one which I always find to be the most underrated and the least talked about despite how good it is. This game is really unique in many ways. Not only was it the first NFS game to be developed by EA Gothenburg, which were then rebranded to Ghost Games and were the custodians of the Need for Speed franchise for the better part of a decade, and also because Rivals was the first NFS game to use EA's in-house proprietary engine, Frostbite, which until up to that point was primarily used in FPS games like Battlefield or third-person RPGs like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about why Need for Speed Rivals is so special in 2024 and why it is one of the most high stakes and rewarding progression system alongside some of the most satisfying gameplay loops in the Need for Speed franchise. And we'll also discuss some of the reasons why this game didn't resonate with the audience at launch and why it wasn't the blockbuster hit that it had the potential to be. And if you enjoy this video guys and want more content like this, then please subscribe to the channel, as less than 2% of the people watching my videos are actually subscribed, and I would love to have you guys on this journey with me. This is Need for Speed Rivals 11 years later. Now without further ado, let's get right into it, and the first thing I want to talk about is the gameplay, because it is the most satisfying part of Need for Speed Rivals. I have always wondered how Electronic Arts managed to strike gold with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010 and Need for Speed Rivals, two games which share a somewhat similar gameplay formula and progression system, but then this gameplay style was completely abandoned more than a decade ago and basically never used again, despite, in my opinion, it being the pinnacle of arcade racing games. Now you might say, hey Mejai, those are some big words, the pinnacle of arcade racing, like seriously? And yeah, I believe that Hot Pursuit 2010 is the best arcade racing game you can play, and NFS Rivals is basically a modified and upgraded version of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Rivals has this all-in, high-stakes, highly rewarding, hardcore and difficult progression system where it's all or nothing. Basically, the game allows you to play as both a cop and a racer, and in the single-player career mode, you can switch between any of the two how you want, which is really cool because you aren't bound if you want to play as a cop or a racer, and you can switch as your mood dictates. Now, unlike Hot Pursuit 2010, where you're basically given kind of fake open world and you go into the races via the menu, and once the race finishes, you're back in the menu. So it doesn't matter how high stakes the race was, you only have to finish the race. But it isn't the case here with Need for Speed Rivals, as you have the open world of the Redview County and you have to go out there, you have to race, and then you have to make sure that you come back and bank those points in your safe house, because if you get caught while you're in the middle of the race or after you're escaping, then you're gonna lose all the bounty that you have accumulated. You're gonna lose all of your rep. So this really makes for a high octane and thrilling experience where it's a very difficult progression system, but it's really rewarding because the longer you stay out there, the more races you complete, the higher your heat level is gonna be, but the more amount of rep you're gonna earn, and once you come back safely, you're gonna get a lot of rep and you can unlock new car parts, you can unlock new cars, and such a system is really rewarding in my opinion. The cops in this game, oh boy, the cops in this game are so hard hitting, and honestly, even on normal difficulty, the game can be really tough if you are not strategic about how you play. You're a lone racer, you can't battle solo against the entirety of the police force. You have to be smart about it. They're gonna hit you and they're gonna hit you hard, and you have to make sure that when you're escaping the cops after the races, you have to plan your route in such a way that you come across the repair shops and you can repair your cars before the cops bust you. And the thing that makes it really engaging and fun in my opinion are the gadgets. They make a return from Hot Pursuit, and alongside Hot Pursuit, Rivals is the only modern Need for Speed game which has these gadgets, and this is the best thing in my opinion that has happened to Need for Speed, and I have no idea why the modern Need for Speed games like Heat and Unbound do not have these gadgets, because they make for so much better cop pursuits. When you're a cop, you have all these amazing gadgets like roadblocks, you can call helicopters, you have spike strips, you have EMP targets, and it's so much fun to go out there and cause utter chaos as you bust the racers. And when you're playing as a racer, you have to escape the cops. You have stuff like shockwaves at your disposal. You have stuff like turbo, which is this insane burst of nitro speed, and the gameplay with these gadgets is so much fun. It creates kind of a tactical sense on the battlefield right here. When you're racing, you have to make sure that you save your gadgets for the correct time, for the correct opportunity, and it's so much fun every single time you land a spike strip, or every single time you make a successful EMP hit, or you manage to slow down the enemy racer with your roadblock. It's so damn satisfying, and the gadgets make so much fun. Like, this is an arcade racer which uses the arcade formula to its max. It's as fun as it gets, and it honestly can't get any more fun than this. And speaking of fun, let's talk about the cars, because even though the lineup of cars in Need for Speed Rivals isn't that big, in fact I would actually say it is on the pretty small side. I was expecting a lot more cars, but the cars here aren't that much, but they are divided differently between the racers and the cops. And even though the lineup isn't that big, one thing I like is that they have a lot of special cars like the Lamborghini Siesto Elemento, and also from the Need for Speed 2014 movie they have the Shelby GTR, which I absolutely love. This is one of my favorite cars. One thing I don't like about a lot of the modern Need for Speed games, especially Unbound and Need for Speed Heat, is that the cars feel really floaty and there's too much oversteering. Thankfully, Need for Speed Rivals isn't like that. In fact, in the Need for Speed games released in the last decade and a half, Rivals probably has my favorite car handling model. It's not too oversteery, and it's not a realistic game by any means. Like, it's not a Forza Horizon, which even though is an arcade game, has a bit of a realistic driving model. Rivals is not realistic at all, but at least the cars feel heavy. They feel planted on the ground. And so in my opinion, it feels a lot better to drive than the cars in the modern Need for Speed games. And one thing which Rivals does better than 99% of the racing games is the sense of speed in this game. When you're driving fast, you can feel it. You can feel the wind gushing by. You can feel the V12 engine of the Siesto Elemento screaming. And oh boy, the car sounds in this game are so good. Like, these are amazing car sounds.
I got it.
The wind gushing past you at 200 kilometers per hour, and the more speed you gain, the harder it becomes to control your car. And even visually, the game basically depicts a very cinematic experience of what it feels like to have high octane, adrenaline filled, high stakes cop chases and races. This brings me to my next point, which is the open world. Now, Redview County isn't that big of a map, which I'm really grateful for, because I don't like maps like, Forza Horizon 5, where it's a big map with barely anything to do. Redview County is not that big. It's on the pretty smaller side, and you can traverse the map pretty easily, but Ghost Games hasn't shied away from the diversity of different biomes, because one part of the map is completely covered in snow and is full of these hilly canyons which you can drift down, while the other part of the map has these beautiful woods, green woods. They look amazing, while another part can be in high society modern suburbs, while another part can be a full desert, and all of it looks so thematic and cinematic, and it feels great. Is it realistic? No, but this is an arcade game. It's not meant to be realistic, it's meant to be fun, and I'm glad that Ghost Games prioritized fun over everything else. Also, the visuals of this game, I know I should have talked about the visuals before, but just look at this game, man. Can you believe it looks 11 years old? It looks so clean. The water animations, the rain animations, the way the foliage is distorting on the map and the leaves are falling down, the general shading and the post-processing and the color palette of this game is so beautiful. It's so mesmerizing. Gives you such a high production, cinematic feel to it, which I honestly don't get from many other games. This isn't realistic, but it sure is really beautiful, and that's what I'm looking for when I play a Need for Speed game. So in many ways, Need for Speed Rivals is near the pinnacle or the top of the Need for Speed series, and this is a really underrated game. Like, this game is the definition of underrated. There aren't many people, if any, who I see talking about this game when they talk about Need for Speed. Now, coming to why I think this game wasn't the blockbuster hit that it had the potential to be, one of the big reasons was that it was an online only game, and single player online only games weren't looked upon favorably back in 2013. I mean, they are barely looked favorably upon now. Like, look at what Ubisoft did to the Crew 1. They shut down the servers and everyone lost access to the game. So it's completely fair if people look down on online only games, because I love NFS Rivals, but it's been out for a decade now, and who knows, EA might shut the servers tomorrow and we will lose access to this game. So people were correct in the sense that they were upset that this game is always online only. Another thing that people might be upset about is the stability of this game. Now, I got this game first on PC and it refused to run properly. It was crashing every 5 minutes. There was a lot of instability in the game, and I actually went onto the internet to search for solutions that I could get to make this game run properly, and I was finding articles and complaints from like 2013, 2014, 2015 with people saying that this game is really unstable and it doesn't run properly. So I ended up buying the game on my PS5. It's a PS4 copy, but I got this game on PC first and it refused to run properly, at least for me, and I'm on Windows 11. Another thing is that this game was made in 8 months on an engine which wasn't meant for racing games. So not only did EA Gothenburg had to prioritize gameplay and make a full-fledged NFS game, they also had to repurpose an engine to do something which it wasn't meant to do. As a result, a lot of the car physics in this game are completely broken. Like, when you're colliding with other cars, the cars can fly off like massive distances, and then all of a sudden they're back to normal. And the behavior, the physics of this game exhibit is quite odd, and I can kind of understand, because the physics engine in this game was never meant for that. And even though I say it is a modified and upgraded version of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit in many sense, it is also a downgrade in some sense. For example, it doesn't have, the special car roster that Hot Pursuit 2010 had, and it doesn't have the special features like, how in Hot Pursuit 2010 there was a narrator which used to narrate about the cars and tell you all about the cars. There's nothing like that in this game. And also, unlike Hot Pursuit where you could use 4 gadgets at once, here you can only equip 2 gadgets at once. But still, this is an amazing game despite its flaws. And Rivals goes on sale often. It's on sale for like $2. I got this for $2, which is absolutely insane. Even without regional pricing, this game would be maximum of $5, and for that I think it's absolutely worth it to play. And if you feel intrigued or interested by what I talked about this game, or if you enjoyed the footage in the background, then you should definitely go and check this game before EA delists it, because it has been out for 11 years. Who knows when EA might remove it, right? So if you're interested, go on and play this game. It's absolutely worth your time. You're gonna have fun, guys. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, then please subscribe. And as always, I hope everyone has an amazing day full of positivity and happy gaming.